My take on it is obviously strategic connection and partnership starts at the top, okay? Everyone should make sure that we have our presidents, CEOs, the leaders, whoever's responsible at that level. And certainly, I think it is top of mind. I would suspect that most of our leaders in general speaking organizations, cybersecurity, security in general, protection of information is top of everyone's minds. I mean, without a doubt. And I think it should continue forward. And it's not going to go away. Jason mentioned earlier, as we become more technically engaged with HR applications, self-service, the tools in which we work, security is just going to become even more important, and it should be top of list at all times. So I think starting that relationship at the top with your CIO, your CHROs, those type of leaders, even your operations leaders, and the importance of security and holding people accountable. I think it's bottom line is accountability and responsibility at all levels, but certainly at our leadership levels. And then we at generally, I say VP director levels or even manager levels, then can adhere to those strategies, principles, policies, procedures, those types of things to ensure that we actually comply. I think that's the end all result, is that we comply, but then also not just complying to our policies and procedures, but we're actually having someone like an audit, as Jason mentioned, but even more importantly, you can even have outside consultants come in and try to do cyber attacks. And they now have, I think, I'm not an expert in this area, but they have tools and resources that actually do cyber attacks against your system. And lots of organizations have those within their cybersecurity, IT organizations, et cetera, to help find any type of potential gaps that organizations might have within, different areas, not just tools, practices, data entry, all those types of things. And I think certainly have that strategic vision at the top will help ensure that we are compliant and how important this is to everyone.
Yeah, I mean, I think everything Derek said. I think one of the things is making sure that when you think of any HR initiatives that encompass technology, that one of the questions is, okay, what is the role of security in this, right? In this measure or in the strategy or in this program? Because then it'll be brought up in a discussion, right? And I think you need to have a set of questions whenever you're doing initiatives that need to be answered. And I think that's one of them. And it could be really, again, some of these things could be pretty quick, right? Depending on what you're doing. But it's important to ask the question rather than later, because it could really be significant if something happens and you just didn't think it through. And again, I come back to terminating employees, right? I mean, like, it's just crazy what some companies end up doing, right? I had a client who's terminating an employee, and I found about it later, and they never asked them where they were going. And they have them finish out their last 2 weeks, and they were a part of like some sales presentations and other things about lead generation and things, people they were going after. I was like, you never asked this person. They have all this sensitive information. You haven't revoked anything, and the person was going to end up going to a competitor. And I was like, that's a complete breakdown from an internal threat, because a manager never asked their employee, where are you going, right? And even if they gave them an answer, they never even looked into it any farther than that, right? And I think, again, the internal threats for these little things, like something like that, is how a lot of these things actually create a lot of problems. The threat actually doesn't lie outside. Sometimes it can be internal. And I think, like Derek said before, with alumni, I mean, also the other thing that's happening is more alumni networks are springing forward, right? They're calling bounce back employees are the new thing. And it's grown to now 4.5% last year of all hires were people going back to a company they previously worked. Well, okay, there's a lot of protocols for all of these things, and how do you keep people in the loop? What do you give them access to, and everything else? Well, you got to have these conversations and really start thinking about them on the way out.